Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm your girl, Michelle Hope, and well, it's Tuesday. And you know what that means? It means it is time for another Just the Tip Tuesday. I'm super excited you're here today because we're going to talk about computer love, cybersecurity, and I'm going to try not to sweat my face off. I'm really excited today because we are going to have a special guest, a friend of mine, Reinye B, who is coming in as a cybersecurity specialist. And I want to let you know she is a beast. So we are going to get it started just in a couple minutes. However, I do want to talk about something that I've been meaning to do for a very long time, and that is called Sex in the News. So that's where I look through the news to see what kind of sex issues are coming up. And in true fashion for tonight's it's really about Tech Tuesday, right? So for Tech Tuesday tonight, what we're going to be doing is we're going to talk about tech. So I thought, why not do a story about tech? And since the COVID-19 pandemic has put us all back at home and more people are going on the internet, especially young children, studies are now showing that child predators are lurking in the recesses of the World Wide Web waiting to prey on children. And we're going to kind of talk about that this evening and how we keep young people safe. Additionally, what we're seeing in Florida, not a big shock here, the child predator cases and child pornography cases has gone up by 50% since last year. So we know that the more you go online, the more dangerous it can be. And if you are somebody with children, being sure to keep an eye on what they're doing online is super important. So we are going to be talking about that. But we're also going to talk about, everything I love to talk about, sex, and more sex, how we're staying safe. I don't need my cloud compromised. I don't need my porn websites compromised. And that has a lot to do with cybersecurity. So I believe Reinye is here. So I'm going to bring her in. We're going to get started. Please shout out where you're coming in from. What cities are in the house? And remember, if you have a question, just pop it right down in the comment box and we will answer them. So Reinye is joining right now. Again, waiting to see where y'all are tuning in from. Oh, Lord, it is. I have to put my hair up. I'm sorry. I love it when it's down, but right now I'm sweating like a banshee. So Reinye, welcome. Hey, girl.
Hey.
So excited to have you with us today.
Glad to be here. Look, I had to get closer to my Wi-Fi.
Oh, I know it's been storming up here today, so it's been, Phoenix, I know you are super hot. Warriors of the Garden, thanks for tuning in. We're also going to be talking about how to keep our information safe. We're living in a cyber reality. And I just really want to help people understand, how do we keep our information safe? California is in the house, which we love. So welcome from the West Coast, or from the East Coast to the West Coast. West side, the best side, always for me. Hey, Bradley, thanks for joining us today. Like I said, I see people waving. I'm trying to do as much as I can waving. So Reinye, let's talk about cyber safety. I mean, aside from being online so much right now, we're also in these streets marching. We're also protesting. We're sending messages. So I'm hoping today we can kind of cover a big gamut from how do I keep my nudie pictures safe? Because we've all got them.
That's right.
How do I have Zoom safely?
All have them. And I said, that's right. No, we don't all have them, but it's prominent. It's
a larger majority have them than not. At least that's what the science says. So how do we, Brooklyn's in the house, which is amazing. So welcome, Brooklyn. So Reinye, you have been in the tech space for how long now?
So I've been in cybersecurity for about 10 years, but technology, I would say most of my life. So even as it's about technology, we had a desktop, one of those huge IBMs at my house. So, I dipped and dabbed in technology most of my life, but career-wise, I would say 15 years total in technology as a whole.
Wonderful. And your background includes working with cyber intelligence firms, advanced president threats on a global scale. So you really know the cyber landscape pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. So you're loading after your question, so it's going to take me we'll have a little bit of a delay.
Got
Um,
it.
so here's what no, I do have to preface it by saying, the views that we talk about today and the topics we discuss today are not the views of my company. So with that said, I mean, technology is growing and it's constantly evolving, right? So from a cybersecurity standpoint, I mean, we see threats becoming more and more advanced each day. And so I think the article you talked about was about online predators. And so that was probably one of the things that kept me up the most when COVID started. Yeah, there was this uncertainty about the human virus, but for the most part, if you stayed at home, you had the initial protection, right? But when we talk about online safety, kids being home from school, I mean, the internet is like another world. It's a completely separate world. And so, I mean, in that world, similar to the real world, you have predators. So you have people that try to lure kids in to do, bad things. And so when it comes to online safety, I think as parents, it's something that we need to be more proactive about. Um,
Okay. And you have a daughter, correct? You have, and how old is your daughter?
oh, yes. So my daughter is in the pre-tween phase. But we gave her a cell phone about 2 years ago. So that's when I think it really hit, right? So as a cybersecurity professional, I naturally, when I took her phone out the box, I turned on the parental controls and I also got a hold of all of her passwords. And I think that is so critical. And when you give a child a device, you don't take it straight out the box and just hand it to them, right? You want to set the parental controls, but it's a two-dimensional thing. So while there's the technology controls, which if you go to the iOS general settings, you can turn on certain parental measures. You can also require the child to send you a notification when they download an app or even approval, right? But then there's a conversation piece of it. And
Right.
when it comes to talking about online safety and educating your children about predators, here's the thing. And I think this is where it becomes different. The conversation around security becomes different than the conversation around sex. Because I truly believe that when it comes to online protection, you have to use scare tactics. So you have to share with your child, okay, so you have access to this device. Here are your responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Responsibility is to not talk to strangers. So if it is somebody who comes to you or approaches you, tell a parent. You also have certain rules. So you talk about online screen time as well as gaming, right? So gaming is another big thing. So needless to say, you have to have that conversation. You have to make children aware that there are people out there who will try to lure you in and do malicious things to you as an individual. So I think having that conversation and making them aware of the dangers of security is, for me, it's a starting point. When you have
Yeah, I really appreciate that you brought up gaming. One of the ways I have read that predators kind of connect with young people online is through gaming by luring them in, creating a friendship, and then offering to pay for their games so they can get upgrades and get these things. And
yeah,
then after a while, they may ask them to send photos. Another thing you brought up was like this idea of strangers. Like when we teach young people about strangers, we think about them in person. We
mm-hmm.
don't necessarily think about them as this, abstract figure
yeah,
on chat or online.
yeah,
But I also think one thing I want to kind of talk about when we think about cyber safety, kids sign up for TikTok, they sign up for WhatsApp and I don't know, Snapchat, and they give away a lot of information. And even as adults, even myself, I have a TikTok account. There's all this talk in the news about breaching of data and really like this idea of big companies selling your information. So,
Yeah.
like, how do you stay in a space where you can retain your privacy? I don't need anybody hacking me. No one needs to be able to access my cloud through my password. I don't, I am someone who has
On
nudie pictures.
still
I've got nudie pictures.
concerns. So I won't comment on the nudie pictures, but you just touched on a million different concerns, right? And
Right.
that's why it's so important as consumers that we become more cyber conscious about our
Right.
digital footprint, how you manage your passwords. But I want to go back to the predator point. You mentioned talking to your child about strangers online. And when we think about strangers, we typically think about adults, right? The weirdos, the sick people. But then there's an aspect of it, which is the kids. So kids who aren't in your circle of friends or kids that you don't know, you know, you are not allowed to follow them in some cases. Now, one thing I will do, so just to give you some background. Yes, my daughter has an Instagram account. It's private and I have her password. So we had the conversation, long time ago that I would audit her account. So every once in a while, if I ask for her phone, she gives it to me, and I will audit her account. So that's a part of the coaching and the molding in a child, because the reality is, once they become a teenager, it's done. They're gonna have access to porn. They're gonna probably see that before they become teenagers, right?
Of course. The average age is 9 in America. The average exposure to pornography is about 9 years old. So let's just know that.
Yep. Yep. So having the conversation about sex, but then talking about security in the same vein. So the kids that kids don't know, the problem with that is you never know if that's an adult account or if that's pretty much, you don't know if that's a kid, right? And so their brains, and this is more in your space, but their brains aren't developed enough to be able to decipher this is a child versus this is a weirdo, right? So
Right. And I also think that it's important to remember that there are kids out there who have been lured in and are being used as bait. They call them bait, like they're bait basically to bring more kids into the circle of deception.
Yep. Yep. So as parents, we have to have a more active presence online and with our kids' devices. So that I do want to talk about the predator piece of it, because that's an aspect that parents don't typically think about, is the other kids that they follow. So
Right.
my daughter's account, if I see a child that has 0 posts but they have 200 followers, I'm like, this is an indicator. So I'll block them, whatever.
Well, I think also, interestingly enough, with that, I think that should apply to adults as well. Because when we think about, like, I know I've gotten some accounts that have 0 posts, 40 followers, and are following 1,500. And I'm always like, is this Russia? And now let's kind of shift over to this conversation of adults,
Well,
right?
it could be
So
Russia, America, it could be anywhere, right?
it really could be. So this space of COVID has really made us have to connect online a lot more. And that being said, although you deny having any nude photos of yourself, there are people out there who are engaging in cyber sex through a various amounts of, like, Zoom. I mean, I know of Zoom sex parties. Let's talk about our work computers. And if we are on a work computer and we are searching online, can our employers see that? Can they see that we had Zoom? We went to a Zoom sex club.
So the work computer is an absolute no. So any transaction, anything you do on your work computer can be tracked, right? There's also monitoring of certain websites, but a lot of companies, for the most part, have like packet filters and web proxies that won't allow you to go to adult sites or gaming. And that's maybe at larger companies, but I will say in general, work computers, I would highly suggest using another device.
It's kind of a no-go.
It's a no-go.
And so to that point, we're talking about, like, what adult relationships look like in the space of cybersecurity. we have to touch on this idea of what do you do, or how might you be able to tell if somebody has put some type of, I don't know, third party extension, checking your emails, checking, is that a thing? And like, at what risk, like what level of risk is that? And then how do you either identify it's happening, or put measures in place to avoid it from happening?
Okay, so you're talking about like a hacker, someone from like
I'm
another.
talking about like my crazy partner. I mean,
Oh,
I'm not saying I'm not, I
talk about relationship.
theoretically.
Yes, yeah. So relationship wise, I won't touch on the relationship piece. Here's what I will say though. I think protecting your online identity. So it first goes back to your password. Like it sounds like a simple concept, but creating strong passwords, passphrases, not using the same password across, it's basic measures like that that can be one, a preventative measure of your partner getting into your account. So if you have a different password on each, your Gmail and your Instagram and all your social media accounts, it makes it a little bit harder, right? But there's another component to that, which is two factors. So Instagram, when you first download the app, as well as Facebook, it only requires you to enter your password, and then also like your phone number, email address as a backup measure to detect your identity. But then if you turn on the multi-factor authentication, enable that control, then it requires you to enter a verification code each time you log in.
I
So
hate that.
I
I
know,
hate it.
no, it's a pain in the neck. But the reality is, if you're trying to do something or you want to protect, what you and your boo got going on, or you and babe, you have to, right? It just becomes a part of your online footprint and how you navigate being online.
Yeah. So I do want to comment to Shy By and JoJo. If you are using school Wi-Fi, I would strongly urge you not to go to any porn sites,
Yeah.
because your school, like Reinye has kind of educated us, especially if it is a school Wi-Fi, they are probably they
Okay.
actually I was a teacher. I can tell you right now, they're tracking all of that.
Yeah. And even the browsing history. So I'll tell you a funny story. I volunteered with one of our local community centers here in Atlanta, and we were teaching them like an online safety course, but then also coding. And so they were trying to download one of the coding applications, but it was taking forever. So the admin at the location, he went into the settings and he checked the CPU, which is your central processing unit memory space, and he realized that a lot of the memory was already used up.
Why was it used up?
Hmm. Well, we found out. So they told me that the kids didn't have hacking experience. This is cyber 101 level. Well, they had like jailed on the computers that, if you get a hold of an iPhone, jailbreak it, resubmit the operating system, make it your own, or even sell it, right? So these kids,
Because
yeah,
let's be real, even when adults think kids are like cybersecurity 101, they are way more advanced than what they are. I know for myself, being a teacher, we had issues where students could hack in to these systems and put up naked pictures of each other on the whiteboards during class. So I think it's important to remember that kids are oftentimes more fluent in cyber networks and like this whole cyber security space than what we think. I want to ask you, okay, how do you feel about online dating? As someone in the cybersecurity space, what's the tea, girl?
um,
What do you think?
so online dating. Hmm.
I love how she takes a drink of water. She was like, I should have gotten a cocktail.
No, as I think about like my non-existent dating life, online dating. Here's the deal. As far as your Bumble profile, I think like now when you get on Bumble, it requires you to log in through your Facebook and authenticate that way. So at least you have like a backup measure where you can do a little bit of research on this person. But people create like fake profiles, spoof profiles. Like you never know if a person is who they say they are. So I think when it comes to online dating, it's really applying just the general concepts that you do when you're dating in real life, quite frankly. Like, if that person, if you don't know somebody that person knows, maybe you don't date them. People have different rules, right? But dating online, it comes with a risk. I mean, catfish.
It just kind of sounds like, Reinye, you're not selling me on the World Wide Web right now, girlfriend. You are not.
Here's the thing
Seems
about
like it seems very dangerous, that World Wide Web.
here's the thing about online dating. So I'll tell you from my personal experience. I have not met anybody crazy, luckily, thank God, right? But you just
I have.
like, yeah. Did you know he was crazy out the gate?
No, but after a while, that online sugar daddy profile melted away. And it turns out he was wanted by the FBI. So when you talk about people making catfish, girl, it's a whole other episode. But tell me what you got to say about online dating. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Again, online dating is just, it's taking a risk, right? You take the risk of potentially talking to somebody who you don't know. So I would say proceed with caution with the online dating thing, but just try to have a FaceTime conversation as soon as possible. And this is me not being a dating expert, but the sooner you can get out of the app, the sooner you know what you're dealing with.
So, how many exchanges? I mean, I totally agree with you. But as a cybersecurity specialist, would you suggest that people who are looking to kind of explore online dating get a Google Voice number? Or is like that a good way to give yourself padded protection in this kind of navigating dating on the World Wide Web?
I'm thinking about that, Michelle, because I'm thinking about, you want to have another number just in case you meet somebody that's crazy, then you can, that's what blocking is for, right? Like you can just block them on your iPhone.
Girl, I'm not trying to give anybody my real number. if you ain't got the old school number, you ain't got the number. That's just, that's how but you know what? I don't want to lie. Josh said that they met their partner. They met their husband on a dating app. I have met some amazing and incredible individuals that I've dated for long periods of time on dating apps. So I totally think they work. So before we get off, because I want to give people an opportunity to ask any questions around cybersecurity they might have. So go ahead and drop those down into the comments. I'm doing my best to read them. Reinye, we're in the middle of a Black Lives Matter movement, a civil rights reckoning. A real spotlight is being shined on the Black experience. We've read all the articles. A lot of us know what the tea is when it comes to the tech space. So can you kind of briefly talk to us about like how you navigate being a Black woman in tech?
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure where you were going with that, if we were going to talk about facial recognition but we're talking about the actual cyber workforce.
Yeah. Being a Black girl in tech, girl.
Yeah.
Being the 0.1% of the 0.1 percenters.
Yeah. So, I think over the years, we've seen an improvement in the number of women in STEM careers. In IT, which I think we still have a ways to go, but we are seeing some progress, right? So there's STEM programs and more opportunities being created in the tech space, even outside of college. So you don't have to have a college degree to get a lot of tech jobs, right? Some certifications or even technical college, experience. But in the cyberspace, I think it's a different animal. And I say that because cybersecurity is still like a burgeoning field, in that there's still a lot of unknowns in this space, and there's different skill set requirements that are coming up that we didn't typically see in the past, right? So as cyber threats become more advanced, then you have additional skill sets that you need. So I think colleges and technical colleges, they're still developing the curriculums to be able to have like majors and graduates come out of cybersecurity programs into the industry, right? So I said all that to say, I think it's a multi-dimensional for recruiting minorities into STEM and especially cyber.
And again, I'm going to circle you right on back around to being a Black woman. Like, what is that like? Because I don't imagine you being at the level that you're at, and we're talking about this emerging industry, that there's a lot of people that look like you. So I really just, homegirl to homegirl.
Yep.
What is that like? And I see the hearts going off. So other people are like, come on,
Um,
talk to us.
so
What is that like? And what do we tell younger Black girls about getting into the tech space?
okay. So I won't give you the corporate response that I gave to my director,
Please.
a couple of weeks ago about inclusiveness. Here's one thing I will say about cyber, and I'll give you the real. I think as the culture of cybersecurity, we are up against some difficult challenges. So I think as cyber professionals, we look at other cyber professionals and say, you have this skill set, we need it, let's go, let's work together, right? So I think you do have a couple of assholes kind of sprinkled in there, but because we are combating bad guys and malicious attackers, I think from a day-to-day standpoint, I work with a great team. I get the support, right? Now, have I encountered challenges with people questioning my abilities?
Yeah.
It happens, right? So I think the general things that we see is sometimes our counterparts will say, oh, they're not technical enough. And it
That sounds microaggressive.
right, it doesn't sound like you don't understand the concepts because of terminology. And so this is where, when I talk to the next generation, ask what is the message to the next generation of girls
Sorry, my
and
dog
next
is
generation
listening.
of cyber professionals? I highly encourage new candidates to build up a technical skill set in some component of IT.
What does that mean? Writing code? What
So
are we talking about? A technical component.
yeah. So for example, teaching yourself how to code or, signing up for a coding boot camp, right? Just to get the hands-on technical lab experience. Because I think, when you attend classes and you take online classes, you learn the concepts, but the true value is in the work that you can bring to the workforce, right? So
Right.
really joining like cyber boot camps, their certification programs. So I get the question a lot about how do I get into cybersecurity? There's a couple of different ways, right? But certifications like Security Plus, CompTIA, there's also Certified Ethical Hacker. Here's the thing, if you're into that type of thing, hacking and wanting to break stuff, go the right way. So like get a certification and take the training class. But I've had quite a few people who have taught themselves how to hack within their own Wi-Fi, so keep it safe.
I was about to be like, that sounds like a case waiting for you.
Be honest, it is against the law. So they build lab environments in their homes and in their own place, and then they learn how to hack in systems. But
Just so we're clear, Reinye
yeah,
is not telling you to become a hacker. That
no,
is
no.
not what we're telling you right now. That is not a thing. But you can create a simulated space.
Exactly. And I mean, there's programs out there. So I do highly encourage next professionals to build up that technical skill set because you may not have experience in every aspect of cybersecurity, but you always want to have that one thing you can go back to kind of, throw your weight around.
And have like a hard skill. I apologize. My dog was tripping and chose to get into the video today. But Rainey, I really want to thank you for taking time to chat with us about like cybersecurity, how we keep ourselves safe, how
Yeah.
we keep our kids safe, what it's like being a Black woman in the industry, because I think that's important. I mean, as a Black woman, who protects us? We protect us. And I think a part of us protecting us is really educating a younger generation of how to get to where we are. So it's super, super important that we have these dialogues about like, hey, you don't necessarily have to have a college degree to become someone in a tech space, or you can get certifications. I think that's really, really important. And as we are living in this post COVID-19, tech is going to be very, very important.
Oh, it's critical. It's critical.
I
Like,
am learning it so quickly.
yeah, like I told my daughter, she's an aspiring actress, singer, chef. And that's fine. But I said, you got to have a technical skill in your back pocket. So she took a coding class this summer in HTML, at least know how to build a website. You can build a website, you can make money. Like that's income, right? So I think, there's other avenues and facets of
I
technical.
don't know how to build a website.
Girl,
I
general,
know.
yeah, there's so many programs out there.
I am not an HTML person. That's why I keep people like you in my tightest of circles. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time out today. Tell everybody where they can find you and what projects you're working on next.
Okay, so my Instagram is cybersecurity mom, obviously cyber professional and mama. So cybersecurity mom. So my responses, I will say this, they're not immediate. So working in the industry, I mean, from sun up to sundown, I could easily work, Michelle. So I have to force myself to cut off. So needless to say, you can reach out to me if you have questions. I'll send links and resources. I also try to share some information on my page every once in a while, just about new developments, contact tracing. I haven't touched TikTok yet, but I will talk about TikTok in an upcoming post. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. And if anybody needs any cybersecurity work done or wants to contact you, they can go ahead and DM you. Also, if they're single and maybe looking to mingle, they can also DM you, right?
Of course, anytime, anytime.
So everybody, I want to thank you so much for staying tuned. That is our time. I am your favorite unapologetic sexologist, Michelle Hope. And yes, I am going to save this. It will go up on my YouTube page. So please make sure you follow, you like, you retweet, you reshare, and you turn on your notifications to find out what kind of shit show shenanigans I'm getting into. And remember, this is the week of action for Breonna Taylor. So be sure to stay tuned to my Instagram page because I will be giving you updates, who to call, how to petition, and where to donate to move the conversation on Breonna Taylor forward. Until next time, everybody, until next Tuesday, I'm your girl, Michelle Hope. This has been another wonderful Just the Tip Tuesdays, and I will see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.
Bye, Michelle. Thank you.